Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Council. First, may I remind you of some of the domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones are muted when you are not speaking, that you do not interrupt other speakers. Members are reminded not to use the messaging chat function during the meeting unless it is to report a pecuniary, non-pecuniary interest or to notify the chair that you wish to make a proposal. That if you're attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Additionally, you'll be invited to speak and ask questions by the chair. Please await your turn. If members lose connection to the meeting, that they must contact the Member Support Officer, Mandy Smith, as soon as possible. As this is a virtual meeting, you will not need to stand to address the chair. And members, we are using a new electronic voting system this evening and, subject to the urgent motion on notice being approved, the voting will be recorded on the website. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be filmed, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you'll be deemed by the Council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting, you're also consenting to being filmed by the Council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcastings and/or training purposes. The Council, members of the public, and the press may record, film, photograph, or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. I will now move to the agenda. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. I have received apologies for absence from Councillors Holt and Councillor Dawson.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 2, declaration of interest by councillors. Are there any declarations of interest? There are no declarations of interest. We'll now move to item 12 on the agenda. I've brought this item up earlier in the agenda. It's the item about voting, and so enable us to properly work this meeting so that we can make the decision before we have any votes to cast. I have now brought this item up to become number 3. I refer you to the urgent motion on notice that was circulated yesterday. I would like to vary the order of business and take this item before item 3 on the agenda. Councillor Ward, would you like to move the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This administration has consistently pursued the use of technology to provide the public and press with an enhanced level of access and engagement in our meetings. This approach has been crucial during the COVID-19 pandemic, where we have maintained open, accountable and transparent democracy by fully embracing virtual meetings. Indeed, Babergh and Mid-Suffolk District Councils were the first councils in Suffolk to hold fully virtual meetings open to the public. An extension to our use of technology in virtual meetings is the adoption of e-voting to replace the lengthy and cumbersome process of roll call voting. Temporary alterations to the Constitution to allow e-voting have already been made by the monitoring officer under delegation. However, I firmly believe e-voting is the way forward for a robust and efficient means of voting for all of our meetings, council, cabinet and committees, whether virtual or in person. Hence, I am proposing that the council adopts e-voting as its primary means of voting. I have also listened to the concerns raised by councillors about losing the current enhanced level of public access to voting afforded by the process of roll call voting. This is essentially the ability of the public to see how each councillor votes on every item, which is something which we didn't even have in face-to-face meetings without the public being present physically in the meeting room. Therefore, this urgent motion also proposes a constitutional change to enable the publication of a record of voting at every meeting on the Council's website to ensure the highest level of openness and transparency. This will not negate the process for formally requesting a recorded vote for the purposes of the minutes or the statutory requirement to record the budget vote formally. So to the motion itself, that this Council permanently adopts e-voting as its primary method of voting in all meetings, and that a record of all votes cast at meetings of the full Council, Cabinet and committees be published on the Council's website with immediate effect. Further, that the monitoring officer be authorised to make the required amendments to the Council's constitution. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jan Osborne, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm happy to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the debate. Councillors will only be allowed to speak once for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Thank you. Who would like to open the debate? Is that Councillor Lindsay? Councillor Lindsay, would you like to open the debate, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I had a slight. I don't disagree at all with the thrust of this motion, and basically support it. But I had a slight amendment I wanted to add. Is it appropriate to read that out now? Perhaps I will.
Yes, you can. You can read that now.
Then people can make it.
Lindsay, thank you.
So it was to keep the wording as it is in the motion, but in the where it says that this council permanently adopts, etc. After the first sentence, so be published on the council's website with immediate effect. I just wanted to add that immediately after the vote, during the meeting, the monitoring officer reads out the names of those voting against and those abstaining. And then the motion itself carries on unchanged from what Councillor Ward is proposing. In other words, further that the monitoring officer be authorised to make the required amendments to the council's constitution. So I'll just, if it's okay, I can perhaps, to make it simpler for you, I posted up the line I wanted to add just into the chat so people can see it written down, so I know it's difficult to follow. So I've just posted that up into the chat. And it's my thought was really that you kind of lose the immediacy. I know the motion says that the voting record will be put up immediately on the website, but for people actually in practice, we know that won't be immediately. It'll be presumably because someone's got to do it, so it'll presumably be the following day. Or but people, members of the public, the press who are attending the meeting, kind of want to know who voted what in the meeting. So that's, and I think we as public elected people want to be ashamed about the way we vote. So that's why I've inserted that in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay. Have you got a seconder for your amendment, please? I think Councillor Jameson has his hand up, so I'm hoping he's going to. Councillor Jameson, are you seconding that amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second that amendment. Happy with the motion put forward by Councillor Ward, and I'm happy to second the amendment as well.
Thank you. Is there anything you wanted to say at this stage?
No, not at this stage, no.
Thank you. Councillor Ward, are you happy with the amendment?
No, I'm not actually. A couple of reasons. Firstly, it's detracting from the purpose of efficiency by having another step, which really, frankly, is unnecessary if we're going to publish this information immediately after the meeting. And secondly, there's a certain element of scapegoating, I think, perhaps, that could be inferred in it. I just don't see that it has any necessity, quite honestly, that the motion as it stands is perfectly sufficient to allow e-voting in as quick and as seamless a manner as it's intended, and also to ensure we have the visibility and democratic accountability that we wish to intend through this motion. So no, I don't think it needs any further addition.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. So first of all, we're going to now go to debate on the amendment in that case, please. Would anyone like to open up the debate? Is that John Hinton? Please could you open the debate on the amendment? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, my comments question really applies equally to the amendment and to the main motion, and that is that presumably this change to the Constitution makes every single vote a recorded one. So why do we then have to say that this doesn't affect the recording of the vote for the budget and when somebody asks for a recorded vote? Because everyone's going to be a recorded vote, whether anybody likes it or not. So where's the difference in that? And if it's all about transparency, how come changes to delegated powers and everything else by officers are not flagged up when they occur so that we have chance to have a look at them? Because that is not very transparent if other things are happening behind the scenes.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton. I'll ask our monitoring officer to answer these questions for you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. With regards to the question about recorded votes, there will still be a requirement for a recorded vote in the formal sense. So what we're doing by publishing the outcome of the vote is not actually taking a recorded vote, which is very technically and very specifically for the purposes of recording the vote in the minutes. So this is a separate record of the votes cast, rather than a formal recorded vote in the legal and in the constitutional sense of the term. In response to Councillor Hinton's second part of the question, Chair, I would just like to point out that all officer decisions taken under delegation of a value of over £10,000 must be published on the Council's website in accordance with the Council's constitution and with legislation around publicity and executive functions. And in regards to urgent decisions that have been taken under delegation during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic, all of those decisions have been published on our website and councillors have received email notification of those decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you to our monitoring officer.
Could I come back on that, Madam Chairman? What is the difference then between a recorded vote and this form of recording? It's a bit like saying what's white is white and what's black is black. They're completely different, or you're implying that they're completely different, whereas in actual fact they are the same. And when it comes to delegated decisions, once they are made, there is no way that councillors can actually challenge them or disagree with them or represent their constituents properly in the implementation of them.
Our monitoring officer will help you with that again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid I can't put it more simply than that a recorded vote in the formal sense and as defined in the Constitution and in legislation is recorded in the minutes. What we are doing by publishing the result of the vote is not a formal recorded vote. It is simply making that information available to the public to replicate the access that the public have had during the roll call vote. I know that that doesn't sound like two different things, but they are two different things in terms of law and procedure. With regards to the delegated decisions, any executive decision taken by an officer is subject to the call-in process. So any decision can be challenged by councillors through the overview and scrutiny process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McCraw, you're speaking to the amendment. I'll remind you, please.
I am indeed, Chair. I have to say and slightly echo the initial thoughts of Councillor Ward here. When I first came across this concept, and it was brought up to me sometime this afternoon as a suggestion, my immediate reaction was that, well, reading out the 32 names involved on both sides of any vote, or even a vote on a committee, is going to be a rather lengthy process. And one of the purposes of carrying this out was efficiency and the time saved. But there's a much more important thing about this, because I must admit, I slightly resent the suggestion that I would be ashamed of my voting at any time, or that I should be ashamed of my voting. I'm quite happy to speak to anything that I've done and say what I've done. But there's a risk here, and it's a significant one, of demonising members, particularly where we're dealing with controversial matters, perhaps in planning, but there are other areas where the matters can be controversial. Now, if you consider this, that we are making a simple binary choice, either in favour of a motion or against a motion, that cannot possibly encapsulate the amount of thought and attention to detail given in a complicated matter such as a planning decision, where the balance can lie very easily one way or the other. There's a lot of thought goes into that before one makes a decision one way or the other. I don't agree with abstaining. It's frankly not the point of our being here. So I've no shame about my votes, and I don't think anybody ever should. But I don't like the idea that we're going to be sort of effectively naming and shaming people in these circumstances. I've no particular wish to provide fodder for a series of Facebook posts. There's quite enough of that goes on in the first place. So I won't be supporting the amendment to the motion. I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. Councillor Beer, talking to the amendment, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, well, I quite liked what Councillor McGraw just said. I also would take exception to the fact that one should not be ashamed as to how they vote. I don't like abstentions. I don't believe, and particularly when you're elected to like a planning committee, that you can sit on the fence and not come down on one side or the other. You're there to make a decision, and sometimes it can be unpopular. I understand that. So abstentions I'm not at all happy with. But going back to the amendment, Councillor Lindsay did say, I believe I'm right, that go on to those who have voted the opposite way and those who have abstained. Well, I think if you went down that road, you'd need to also list the people who voted for it so that you had all three of them in front of you. But Madam Chairman, I do feel that the original motion does allow us, and I think the officer has said it, to actually make available by the end of the meeting a list of how all members have voted on the particular item, and that could be sent out to all the members. It's then made available at County Council. You can leave the council chamber and you can see on a screen in the members area as to how everybody voted. It's all recorded there, and usually up quite quickly after the meeting. So I don't have a problem with electronic voting. I do think it should be made available as quickly as possible after the meeting to all members, and that can also then be picked up by the public if they so wish. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beer. Councillor Hardacre.
Hello, I'm here. I agree with the principle of Robert's amendment, and I will be voting for it, but I think we're kind of missing a trick here, which is that someone somewhere, presumably one of the officers, has on their screen the results of electronic voting. We're already doing videos via video meetings via YouTube, whether or not the real meetings or not. We already have the ability to share PowerPoint presentations, so can't the real-time screen of the votes come in just be shared on the screen? It seems technically simple to me. And then anyone who's watching a YouTube video can just see it.
I'll ask our monitoring officer to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Hardacre makes a very good point, and something that we have explored. However, the system at the moment is limited in terms of that display. The officer controlling the back end of the voting system cannot see all of the votes on a single screen, so it wouldn't really work in terms of publishing that on the screen in a virtual meeting, but it is something that we continue to work on, because obviously an ideal solution would be able to flash up the result of the vote at the end of the voting process. So it's something that we continue to work on, Chair, but technically is not possible right away.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hardacre?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Malvisi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm at one with Councillor McCraw. I'm not ashamed of the way I vote, but I certainly don't wish to be party to naming and shaming my fellow councillors. So I will not be voting for the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Parker. Would you like to speak to the amendment? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mine's just really a technical question. It's probably one for the officers, but as this amendment isn't actually on ModGov, presumably, ironically, we're going to have to do this by manual vote, aren't we? This particular one.
Emily, can you help us here?
Yes, Chair. So we do have the capability to add amendments to the system at the very last minute. So officers have been typing away in the background to add wording and create a vote, so you can vote on this amendment electronically. Thank you.
Oh, what a wonderful thing technology is. Any more questions or any more comments on the amendment? So if there are no more questions or comments on the amendment or debate on the amendment, I'll ask Councillor Lindsay to sum up, and then I'll go to Councillor Ward. Councillor Lindsay.
Thank you, Chairman. And thanks to the officers who I had no idea I'd set somebody to work frantically writing stuff up. Yeah, I think the only point seemed to be that people said they weren't ashamed of how they vote, but they didn't want people to be named and shamed. I don't see how those two statements tally. If you're not ashamed about how you vote, are you saying that other councillors are ashamed of how they vote? Because no one's being named and shamed if you're not ashamed of how you vote. So I just wanted to point that logical flaw in your arguments, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay. Councillor Ward.
Yeah, the only other point I'd wish to make on this amendment is that, of course, individual councillors are perfectly free to say how they're going to vote during any comments they wish to make in the debate. So individuals can quite happily do that. So I still maintain that this amendment is unnecessary.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. So now we're going to vote on the amendment. So we're going to do that. So I'll now ask our Deputy Monitoring Officer to take us through that. Jan.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app by clicking the plus sign in the top right hand of the screen and selecting your vote, please.
I'm for it, but I still can't get it to come up properly so I can vote.
That's fine. We can add that manually afterwards. So you're voting for, Councillor?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Hurren. Councillor Hurren? Okay, Councillor Creswell, can you indicate how you wish to vote?
Against.
Against, thank you. Councillor Lindsay?
For.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hurren, are you able to indicate how you wish to vote? Councillor Hurren, are you able to hear me? Councillor Hurren, we can see that you're still in the meeting. Are you able to indicate how you wish to vote?
Hello, Jan. I'm with you at last. I'm against the motion. Thank you.
Against the amendment.
The amendment, yes.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. We will now tally those up. Thank you.
Sorry, Mandy, I voted the wrong way. Sorry.
Councillor Ayres.
Yeah, I'm because I was trying to fiddle about with the other. I'm for. I'm against because I'm for what Councillor Ward said.
Okay, Councillor, we will amend your vote.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still trying to get this sorted out.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I can confirm that the voting is 25 against the amendment and 26 against the amendment and 4 for the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jan. So the amendment is lost. So we'll now debate to the original motion. Thank you. Would anyone like to start the debate on the original motion, please? Councillor Parker, would you like to start the debate, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I suppose the obvious question then, therefore, is if we are making an amendment to the Constitution specifically for this purpose, in the event that we return to Chamber for physical meetings, does that then require a further change of Constitution, Madam Chair?
I'll ask our monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. The wording of the motion describes e-voting as our primary method of voting. Therefore, we will retain the wording in the Constitution that also allows for other methods of voting, such as hands-up voting, by consent of the meeting, or indeed a roll call vote if the chairman so requires it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any other people who want to join the debate? Oh, Margaret Maybury, Councillor Maybury, would you like to join the debate?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the monitoring officer for just confirming this. So basically, we still have our types of voting that we have currently now. So I wasn't against this motion, but I think from what the monitoring officer has said, that we're going to have this crossover of types of voting that is allowable. So why have we got this motion?
I'll ask our monitoring officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So at present, the Constitution talks about voting by show of hands or by the assent of the meeting. To enable us to conduct voting during the use of virtual meetings while we're not able to meet in person, I made a temporary amendment, an alteration to the Constitution under my delegation to allow for e-voting. However, I don't think that it would be appropriate for me to make that decision permanently to vote with by electronic means without the consent of the council. I don't think it's appropriate for me to use my delegation to do that on a permanent basis. Therefore, this motion does two things. It allows us to adopt e-voting on a permanent basis, but it also makes that alteration to our practice to actually publish the records of the votes cast. Thank you, Chair.
May I come back, Madam Chairman?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. And thank you to the monitoring officer for that explanation. Considering that the council does not anticipate to be permanently working in this way, i.e. from home, basically for most of us, and that we are hoping that COVID-19 will cease its veracity through the population in the next few months. I don't actually see the reasoning why that this is an emergency motion on notice, and I will be honest. I definitely was not against it, but I'm now beginning to feel that I may well be. Thank you. And my other question is, before any vote is taken on this, I wonder if Councillor Ward would reread the motion, because his wording, as he read it out, was actually different to what is written on the emergency paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. I'll ask Councillor Ward to do that at the end when he sums up. Would anyone else like to join the debate? Does anyone else have anything to add? Councillor Malvisi, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's just to say that I'm pleased that the motion has come forward so that we can tidy up the Constitution rather than leave it as a semi-paid employee sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Malvisi. Is there anyone else who would like to join in the debate before we move back to Councillor Ward? So in that case, Councillor Ward. Oh, Councillor Maybury, did you want to say? Oh, yes. Sorry, you can't come back. You've already had your opportunity to speak. Sorry, Councillor Maybury. Is there anyone else who has not spoken who would like to join the debate? Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just coming back to the question that was posed to the monitoring officer about when we go back into the chamber, does that mean we have to pass a motion to go back to how we wanted to do it? Her answer I found rather ambiguous, because it implied that there were 3 different systems of voting available to us, and we would then have to decide at each meeting or on each vote which one we happen to want to use, whether it was recorded, show of hands, or electronic. The whole thing is getting a bit of a muddle. We're either electronic or we're not electronic, or we're manual or we're not manual. We seem to be getting into a right muddle as to which one is actually going to be available to us after COVID-19 allows us back into the chamber.
I'll ask our monitoring officer to clarify. Thank you.
I think I can also, actually, if I may.
Councillor Ward.
Yeah. The motion itself explicitly states that e-voting will be the primary method of voting for all of our meetings. So unless we want to do anything different, whether we are doing this virtually or in the chamber, we will be using e-voting, and that there's a strong push to use technology as much as we can. So I'm not sure Councillor Hinton's confusion there. E-voting is going to be what we're going to use wherever we are.
Is there anything you wanted to add there, Emily? Or that's
Chair,
correct. Yep.
Chair, if I may, and thank you to Councillor Ward for re-emphasising the word primary in the motion. The reason that the other methods of voting will exist in the Constitution are, of course, as a contingency arrangement, should there be any issues with technology, for example, at a meeting, and the recorded vote provisions have to stay in our Constitution by law. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Otherwise, I'll move now to Councillor Ward to read out the motion and to sum up. Councillor Ward, would you like to sum up and to also read out the motion again for clarification?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, well, I'm pleased with the debate and the fact that certainly from the debate, most members do appreciate the benefits of e-voting. I know in the initial vote on the amendment, we did have some gremlins, but it's a matter of becoming familiar with the system, learning how to use it. It is very straightforward, and it's just, I'm sure, something that even by the end of this evening, once we've had several other votes, we will all be much more proficient at it, and we will all see the benefits of this method of voting. It is straightforward, it is quick, it is efficient, and it does have an automatic record of what's been done. In terms of the motion itself, I will reread it now. However, I did read it verbatim, as you'll see in your agenda supplement. I did not change any of the wording. So the motion is that this council permanently adopts e-voting as its primary method of voting in all meetings, and that a record of all votes cast at meetings of the full council, cabinet and committees be published on the council's website with immediate effect. Further, that the monitoring officer be authorised to make the required amendments to the council's constitution.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. I will now ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app by clicking the plus sign in the top right hand of the agenda screen and selecting attendance and voting. In the voting tab, the vote for this agenda item will show in blue. Please click on the blue line to open the vote. Thank you. You councillors to indicate how you wish to vote. Councillor Ayres, please. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ayres, we've just managed to receive your vote. Okay, Councillor Hurren.
I'm for the motion.
For the motion, thank you. And Councillor Creswell. Councillor Creswell, are you in the meeting?
4, sorry. 4, did you hear? Sorry.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, councillors. The vote was 29 for the motion and 1 against. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Councillor McCraw, I understand you wanted to raise a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. I believe it would help us carry out electronic voting in the future. I'd like to make a suggestion that officers explore the idea of having the scroll bar on the right-hand side of the voting screen permanently widened. In the default position, it's just a narrow line, so it isn't obviously apparent how you move down the screen. If that were to be a wider scroll bar, I believe it would make life easier for everybody to carry out these votes.
I think that will be looked into. Good evening. There was an adjournment of proceedings just a few minutes ago because the live output to YouTube had a technical issue. There were no decisions made and the meeting was stopped during this period. We will now start on item 3 on our agenda. So no points of the meeting have been missed going out live. We'll now go to item 3 on our agenda, BC 2010, to confirm the minutes of the annual meeting held on 22nd September 2020 for accuracy only. Are there any issues with accuracy? Councillor Malvisi, are you pointing out an issue of accuracy with the minutes? Your hand is raised. Okay, thank you. Could I have a proposer then for the minutes, please?
So, move, Madam Chairman. Councillor Peter Beer.
Yes, Councillor Beer, can I, have you got a comment?
No, I've moved the...
you're proposing the minutes, thank you.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you. No,
thank
that's
you.
fine.
Councillor Malvisi, are you seconding? Your hand is raised. Councillor Jan Osborne.
Yeah, I'm happy to second, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll now ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app by clicking the plus sign in the top right hand of the agenda screen and selecting attendance and voting. In the voting tab, the vote for this agenda item will show in blue. Please click on the blue line to open the vote. Thank you. Councillors who still need to vote, Councillor Hinton, Councillor Hurren and Councillor Lindsay. Can you indicate, councillors, how you wish to vote? Councillor Hinton.
In favour. My modern gov screen's completely frozen up, won't move.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hurren.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jan. Whatever I do, the cursor does not come up, but I have read the minutes. I was at the meeting and I'm in favour of agreeing with them.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Lindsay.
You for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's 28 in favour and 2 abstentions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The minutes of the meeting have been confirmed and will be signed at the next practicable opportunity. We'll move now to item 4 on the agenda, BC 2011, announcements from the Chairman and Leader. I refer you to paper BC 2011 for noting. Thank you. Councillor Ward, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
The second COVID wave has now hit hard and we are back in lockdown. Things are different this time around with fewer restrictions, and the numbers in Suffolk, whilst fluctuating, are still low compared with the national picture. The latest data from the Suffolk Corona Watch site shows the east of England currently has an estimated R value of between 1.0 and 1.3. Here in Babergh, there were 113 cases reported in the past week, which is a rate of 120.6 per 100,000. In total, we have had 925 confirmed cases and sadly 63 deaths since the pandemic began. Although this latter number is the latest data from the ONS and is only up to the 6th of November. However, as I'm sure you are all aware, we do currently have a spike in Hadley, and this is very concerning. The current weekly numbers for the town are 67 cases, which is a rate of 601 per 100,000. Although extremely high, it is thankfully on the decline. Whilst there has been a focus in the press on the care homes and high school, household-to-household transmission is also taking place, and we must continue with a relentless public awareness and messaging campaign. The Stick With It Suffolk campaign is still active, and the Home But Not Alone service has been reactivated. The advice to us all is to stay at home as much as possible, but if we have to go out, the message is simple: hands, face, space. Use sanitizers where provided in shops, wear a mask, and maintain distance from others. That way we can minimize transmission and bring the infection rate down. We have started to distribute the latest government business grants, the local restrictions support grant and the additional restrictions grant. We will also be renewing our response to enable our homeless to have somewhere to live through the winter. We are awaiting the government's one-year spending review with a statement due from the Chancellor tomorrow. Whilst it remains disappointing that the review won't provide longer-term financial certainty, hopefully it will include more support for local authorities to address the very significant financial pressures we face, and also include the measures needed to provide certainty for budget setting next year. We do have a significant budget challenge at Babergh and have started to consider measures we will need to take to produce a balanced budget for 2021 to 22 and provide a sound medium-term financial strategy for the years beyond. To finish on an upbeat note, the first Babergh Mid-Suffolk Innovation Awards were held virtually on the 3rd of November and were a great success in terms of promoting innovation in the districts, although the technology had gremlins. We had 11 categories and there were inspiring stories for each of the 28 finalists. So the winners were those that really stood out. And finally, today is Councillor Arthey's birthday. So on behalf of the council, I would like to wish him a very happy birthday. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. As one of the ward members for Hadley, I would also like to add my concern for the residents of Hadley in particular. And I'd like to say that for those people who've been affected by this terrible pandemic, I and I'm sure my fellow Hadley councillors and all members of Babergh have you in our thoughts, and we are all concerned for you. Thank you. And happy birthday to Councillor Arthey. We'll now move on back to the agenda. Item 5, to receive notification of petitions in accordance with council procedure rules.
Thank you, Chair. None received.
Thank you. Item 6, questions by the public in accordance with council procedure rules.
None received, Chair.
Item 7, questions by councillors in accordance with council procedure rules.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 8, BC 2012 Overview and Scrutiny Committee Report. I would like to invite Councillor McCraw to introduce paper BC 2012, which is for noting. Councillor McCraw.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Right, I'm reporting on the meetings held of the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee in September, where 2 meetings were held on the 4th and the 22nd of September. I would note that these reports are for information and for noting, but I'm happy to take any questions on the content of the meeting. So the first item was a future delivery model for our public realm. As councillors may be aware, the current contract for Babergh expires in October 2021, and it's apparent that we would need to make new arrangements. Of the models we examined, there were 4 of these to continue as we were, which would require Babergh to obtain a new contract, to bring the services together as Mid-Suffolk do in a single in-house operation, to put both councils out to a new contract, or to establish a wholly owned trading company, a LATCO, and deliver the services to both councils in that manner. I'm glad to say that there was an immense amount of information, a very well prepared report from consultants from outside the council, I would add, not at great expense. We looked at everything, and it was fairly clear that of all the options and the time limit allowing, that the recommendation should be for a in-house operation as it takes place in Mid-Suffolk. We had sufficient evidence of how well that went, and were able to make comparisons with our existing provision. We did feel that further work should be undertaken in respect of developing some KPIs. But finally, that the option of having a LATCO be retained as an option for the future, for further consideration, but given the time constraints, probably not right now. That recommendation went forward to Cabinet, and I believe they have already acted upon that. On the 21st of September, we considered a couple of items. The first, or 3 in fact, the first of these was the scrutiny and first review of the Babergh Mid-Suffolk housing test, this is a complicated one, housing delivery test action plan. And these are separate documents for Babergh and for Mid-Suffolk. Now, this is not a statutory requirement. We are only required to undertake this once every 5 years. But as a matter of good practice, and also for good information, the councils have undertaken to carry this out on an annual basis. So it was slightly delayed by COVID-19, but we were able to do it within a reasonable time frame. And we noted the report, the appendices, and we're more than satisfied that the housing delivery test action plan is more than sufficient to our purpose. The annual review of, sorry, the screen is moving too fast at times here. The annual review of the Joint Homes and Housing Strategy and Homelessness Reduction and Rough Sleeping Reduction Strategy, these are really long titles, I apologise for that, set out our vision for residents to be living comfortably and safely. We've adopted these strategies in the past. We are updating them and annually reviewing them. We were very impressed with the work of the Housing Solutions team under Heather Tucker, our corporate manager. The challenges faced by that team during COVID have obviously been most remarkable, and the speed of response has been really quite astonishing. We made many thanks to the officers for the report, the presentation and the work. And we also made the particular point that we believe that the committee recognising the importance of these strategies and stressed that housing continues to be recognised by both cabinets and by both councils as primary functions of a district council. A final item was dealt with on independent living service, looking for a new model for disabled facilities grant. Now, this was held in a confidential section under Part 2 of the Local Government Act, and therefore I haven't reported fully as much as I would like to. I can assure you that we followed a recommendation, an option contained within the paper, and that has gone forward to Cabinet. I believe that may still be under discussion either with Cabinet or with employees who may be affected, so therefore I can't report greatly on that until I'm given the all clear that it is entirely in the public domain. What I will say is that the previously existing model had a lot of shortfalls that Overview and Scrutiny had been pointing out for the last 2 years, but the contract was fixed and was required to complete. There were no advantages to trying to leave it early. So it was left in place, but interim measures had been taken to reduce the shortfall in our spend of the available disabled facilities grant. Members may remember a year ago that we made an extension and an increase into the maximum grant that could be given. All I will say apart from that is that I think we're more than satisfied that future provision for our disabled facilities grant will be far better than we have had before. I'm happy, of course, to take any questions on this report, either in the meeting or afterwards at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. I think we already have Councillor Hinton lined up for a question.
Thank you,
Councillor Hinton.
Just a quick one. Looking at page 23 of the papers, on which I think it's the first page of the report that Councillor McCraw has just put forward, when talking about the open space public realm contracts, etc., or delivery models.
Yes.
Towards the bottom of that page, it talks about the items that that the service covers: countryside, amenity areas, street scenes, A14 litter picking, playgrounds, public conveniences, car parks. No mention of the A12 picking.
Again,
so
this
if that's
not
going to be left off the contract, somebody's going to have egg on their face.
It was not an exclusive list. There were other items included in that, and obviously we didn't want to make the report any longer than it was already. So yes, both everything that covered by public realm was previously covered by public realm will continue to be covered by public realm. I'll just add that in whatever provision is made, that a very, very well thought out transition plan has been put in place to ensure continuity of service for the residents.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. Councillor Osborne, Councillor Adrian Osborne.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. It's not a question, Alistair. I just want to express my thanks and that of I hope the committee that you chair. I think your chairmanship has been absolutely excellent, and bringing together all the points that have come up from our overview and scrutiny has been essential. And those are the teams that have brought that to you, and the witnesses have done an excellent job. So thank you very much for your chairmanship. I know you don't often, you always thank other people, and I thought it was about time that you got thanked as well.
Well, we're blessed we're blessed not only with good officers and good teams, but we're blessed with good members.
As a member of that committee also, I would like to support those the thanks to you.
Okay, this is getting a little embarrassing now. Shall we move on, please?
We'll move on.
Unless there are any further questions.
Further questions to Councillor McCraw on this paper? Well, if there are no more questions, thank you very much, Councillor McCraw, and
sure.
That paper is for noting. We'll now move on to item 9, recommendations from Cabinet and committees. Item 9A, BC 2013, Licensing Act 2003, Statement of Licensing Policy, Statutory 5-year adoption. I would like to invite Councillor Newman to introduce paper BC 2013 and move the recommendation in the report. Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Licensing Act 2003, Statement of Babergh District Council Licence Policy, Statutory 5-year revision. The 5-year review of the statutory licence policy for Babergh District Council has been carried out. It is for full council to decide whether to adopt the revised policy. The policy consultation was carried out between the 20th of August 2020 and the 16th of September 2020 in respect of the statutory licence policy for Babergh District Council. The policy for Babergh and Mid Suffolk are broadly the same, apart from details relating to the nature of each district. Since November 2005, the licensing authorities have been responsible for functions under the Licensing Act 2003. Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003 requires that each licensing authority shall determine and publish a local statement of licensing policy relating to discharge of licensing functions under the Act. The licensing team revised the statement, which has been in effect since January 2016. The report before you today seeks that approval by full council of the revised policy statement for Babergh District Council, so that it may be adopted for publication and ready to take effect from the 7th of January 2021. The licensing team has undertaken the necessary work within existing resources and fee structure. The legislation aims to secure full cost recovery of the Administration Licensing Act 2003 functions, though fees payable for licence applications are ongoing maintenance. The fees, banding system and fee levels are currently set by the General Government via regulations, as they have been unchanged since 2005. The previous government decided in early 2015 to not activate the provision of the Policy Reform Social Responsibility Act 2011, Section 121, which would have devolved fee settings to the local licensing authorities. The current draft will be the 5th edition of the Council Statement of Licensing Policy under the Licensing Act 2003. The licensing team has the necessary experience, stakeholder contacts and networking in place to ensure that the wide balance consultees has taken place. The consultation took place over a period of 4 weeks, though through various channels and media. One response was received. The lack of response is not a concern to the licensing team. As well as all existing premises and clubs and licensing, over 500, 150 relevant businesses, organisations were consulted, including all the parish councils. The Statement of Licensing Policy is based on the Licensing Act 2003 and the statutory guidance, Section 182 guidance, which limits degree of which it can be amended. There have been 4 previous reviews, consultations, and the policy have been updated and refined on each occasion. It is therefore reasonable to assume that the consultees are satisfied with the content. The draft statement of licensing policy for Babergh was considered by the Licensing and Regulatory Committee on the 9th of October. There were some discussions around the breadth of the consultation and checks carried out to ensure that the licensing application have adequate English language skills, but no amendments were made, and the committee voted unanimously to recommend to full council that it be adopted without further amendment. That concludes my summary. If there are any questions, I will be glad to answer them. If not, the licensing officer, Catherine Green, can answer them. And I'd also like to thank my licensing team who have worked very hard during this COVID. So thank them very much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman.
Thank you. Is that Councillor Carpendale?
Yes, and I would also like to add my thanks and appreciation to the work done by the licensing team. They are extremely knowledgeable and very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll now open this up to questions. Councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject under discussion and must be a question. Thank you. Robert Lindsay, Councillor Lindsay, have you got a question?
Yes, I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Newman, feel free to tell me I'm completely off the beaten track, because I probably will be. But I just wondered if there was scope, if the legislation allows you scope to look at tightening up licensing a bit when we're talking about events that are giving out these sort of single-use plastic cups and mugs and things that just tend to end up in the bushes. I don't know if it was looked at, and it might be impossible under the legislation. it'd be nice to see us licensing events where through the licensing process, encouraging events to actually use reusable plastic mugs, so with a deposit or something like that, so they have to be returned to the bar or wherever they were got from. Was that looked at, and is that a possibility? Thanks.
Well, I don't think that's been looked at, Councillor Lindsay, but I'm sure Catherine Green can back me up on this. But I'm sure that when someone applies, we couldn't say what cups they can use, but I don't see why not. We couldn't suggest that they do use plastic cups or recyclable cups. I've got no problem with that at all. I don't know if Catherine Green's got anything to say on that matter.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Quite often large-scale events come to our safety advisory group, so they all go through their plans, etc., in regards to events. So it's something that we can make sure that we advise each and every event that they should make sure that they have that as a consideration.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. I think that is a good idea, and thank you, Robert Lindsay, for your suggestion.
Councillor Arthey, have you got a question?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's just a quick one, and it concerns the list on page 34 of the papers, which is page 4 of the statement. And I just happened to notice that in the list of premises where we have issued licences since the last review, the appearance of hairdressers, and I just wondered what had changed for hairdressers to need a licence.
I was expecting this question, Clive, and it's a very good one. Now, what they're doing, hairdressers do wedding hairstyles, and they all go in there, and they now like to offer them a drink of champagne actually in the deal with the hair. But obviously, they can't give drink with the hairdo because they need a licence for it. So that is why it has now been added.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was an interesting one. Any more questions? Any more questions, please? Thank you. Well, if there's no more questions, if they've finished, we'll now move on to debate. Councillors will only be allowed to speak once for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Would anyone like to open the debate, please? Would anyone like to open the debate on this matter? So if there are no questions, no further questions and no debate, we'll now move straight on to the vote. Councillor Newman, is there anything you'd like to add though first?
No, I'd like to move the document and hope you all vote for it. It's a very good document.
It is indeed. I'll now ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the electronic vote, but first I'll, just for clarification, read the recommendation. The recommendation at 3.1 is that the Draft Revision Licensing Act 2003 Statement of Licensing Policy document, as attached at Appendix A to this report, be adopted for publication and to take effect for 5 years, unless sooner revised, from 7th January 2021. Thank you. So we'll now move to the vote. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app by clicking the plus sign in the top right hand of the agenda screen and selecting attendance and voting. In the voting tab, the vote for this agenda item will show in blue. Please click on the blue line to open the vote. Thank you. Still waiting for Councillor Davis, Councillor Hurren and Councillor Nunn. Okay, we're just waiting for Councillor Hurren and Councillor Nunn.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't seem to be able to do it this time.
Okay, would you like to indicate how you wish to vote?
For.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hurren, would you like to indicate how you wish to vote? Councillor Hurren, are you able to indicate how you wish to vote? Okay, we will move to the vote without Councillor Hurren's vote at the moment. Okay, thank you. Chair, that is 29 votes for. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We'll now move to item 10 on the agenda, item BC 2014 ICT strategy. I would like to invite Councillor Parker to introduce the ICT strategy, which is for comment only. Councillor Parker.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chair. And in a moment, I'll hand over to Matt Harding, who will take us through a presentation of the IT strategy. But before I do, Madam Chair, I just wanted to try and add some context for members so that we can have a better understanding around the object of the exercise. So the first thing to say is that the ICT strategy is all about customer outcomes and less about tech IT. IT, if you like, is the conduit by which we're able to deliver first-class customer outcomes. As members will know, our IT is run in conjunction with Suffolk County Council. This strategy helps us to unlock the value in the existing partnership with Suffolk County Council. Just a quick word about how the strategy came about and the formation of the strategy. Some time ago, and indeed in the previous administration, it was recognised that there needed to be a change in provision of our ICT. Sarah Wilcock, who is our Assistant Director for Customers and Digital Improvement, undertook some work to bring the recommendations forward. And as a result of those recommendations, we restructured ICT to bring the team who look after our business applications and bring them back into the council, enabling them to be closer to and respond better to the needs of the council. With the addition of Matt, our IT corporate manager, we've worked on strengthening the relationship with Suffolk County to enable us to realise the potential of that partnership, but moreover, really importantly, the value that we can extract from that partnership. And it's those steps that have provided the foundations upon which this strategy is built. So that gives a little bit of background, Madam Chair, and without further ado, I'll hand over to Matt now to give a brief presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can after Matt's said his piece, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. I am going to share my screen to go through a brief presentation on the ICT strategy, as Councillor Parker has indicated. So just bear with me 1 second. Please let me know if you cannot see the screen. I am sharing. I am not sharing. That's really helpful. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
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 Right.
Yep.
So thank you for that. Just to go through it, we're going to go through the IT strategy at a very high level. So I'm going to give you some the ICT strategy overview, and then I'll hand back to Councillor Parker to take comments. As you will have seen in the accompanying papers, our ICT strategy is formed around four key principles. Those are people, process, data, and technology. You'll undoubtedly heard, until quite recently anyway, the phrase people, process, and technology in terms of being the three key areas from an ICT perspective that help to keep organisations efficient and also ready to take full advantage of any transformation opportunities. Another way of looking at these areas is to look at them as key principles in the successful delivery of IT, something we want to do in our IT strategy. For instance, if we don't involve people or support them, look at their processes and understand them,
we're not going to implement technology that works for them. It's quite simple. Where is data in this, however? Well, people and process both create and are informed by data. And data is one of our potentially most overlooked assets, and an asset that IT can help surface, put in front of people to provide them with the additional insights that support their services, but also provide the evidence to the organisation of the need for and the results of any change. So with that in mind, our strategy is based on those 4 principles. To give you a little bit more detail about those, people, excuse me, bear with me, I'm just finding that, there we are. People is about connecting the staff of Babergh District Council with the information and insight that enables them to undertake their roles effectively from wherever they may be, something that has become vastly important during the COVID crisis. But it's also about connecting the residents and customers of Babergh to our services in the most cost-effective and efficient way, enabling them to self-serve where appropriate, but not forgetting that not everyone can or will self-serve. It's about enabling the staff of Babergh to collaborate across the organisation, connecting those key strands of work quickly and effectively, but also enabling that collaboration across our partners and other delivery agencies. It's about ensuring that key communication tools are used by the people and staff of Babergh and are modern and fit for purpose. But it's ensuring that the communication with our customers and partners as well is relevant, timely, accurate, and through the relevant mediums and channels. Process is about assessing our technologies with a view to ensuring they are enablers to effective processes and efficient processes. It's about automating those processes where it makes sense to do so, and leveraging our technologies that help to digitally enable processes within Babergh. We want to also automate those repetitive sort of robotic tasks that would then free our staff up to focus on much more meaningful and much more valuable tasks to both them and our customer. And where a process can't be automated end to end, or it doesn't actually make sense to do so, we want to look to accelerate those parts of the process where it does make sense and can be done to ensure that residents still get better services, albeit potentially incrementally better. Data is about ensuring that we utilise technology to surface that data, put it in front of people so that we can make it integral to the day-to-day running of our business. We want to integrate those data sets that help us to make informed, evidence-based decisions that improve services and products. And we want to take the appropriate opportunities that data provides us, both internally held data and externally provided data, to provide insight into the potential future demand for existing and or new services. In particular with data, and actually all of this, it's specific that we have to do this safely and securely. After all, the data we hold isn't ours, but is that of our resident, and as such, they expect that we are safe stewards of it. Technology is the last thing on my list. And now that may sound weird from an ICT strategy, but as Councillor Parker has said, this is all about ensuring outcomes for people, and those whether they be residents or staff. So from a technology perspective, we want to ensure that we are building accuracy into the running of our IT services, enabling a proactive understanding of the financial, people and asset implications of our technology service. We only want to exploit appropriate new technologies whilst leveraging our existing technologies, the things we already have bought, to support the ambitions of Babergh and improve the outcomes of our for our customers. Finally, I want to deliver an IT service that is frankly aligned to the needs of the services and staff of Babergh, ensuring that the IT staff of Babergh are engaged early and often by services in their continuous service improvement. So that's the 4 principles. I just want to give you a brief overview of how that sort of fits in terms of a technical architecture. Please be aware that this is not a full technical architecture and is only for the purposes of today. But to all intents and purposes, how this fits, well, I've talked about making sure we get better outcomes for our residents. And as a result, that basically means we need to have products and services that meet residents' needs. Our services can be broken down from an IT perspective into sort of 3 key areas. What we would call the front office, that's the way that people contact us in the main from an IT perspective, either through telephony or our online presence. What we might call our middle office, which is the stuff that enables people to take stuff from online or web or telephone and then put it into our back office systems. So for instance, open housing, various other systems, our line of business systems. By implementing this strategy, what we are hoping to do is we are hoping to ensure that our front office increases our customer engagement, enables us to reach more customers. We increase our self-service opportunities. But as I said earlier, we must remember and must be mindful that there are some who are unable or unwilling to take part in self-service. So we still need to provide mediated access for them. And we also want to use our front office area, so our online forms and our telephony channels, to make sure that we try and start there for end-to-end digitisation of process. If we get the middle office right, we actually start to automate some of the stuff that I've talked about earlier. So we automate the stuff that people take out manually and move in. So if we automate that, we get better services. We get, frankly, quicker services. We also get increased data quality. We all make mistakes as humans when typing things, and it reduces the need for the staff in the middle office to do that sort of repetitive robotic work and enables them to do more meaningful and more, frankly, fun tasks for them. And then if we get the third area right, which is our line of business systems, we end up with systems that are much easier to use, they are fit for purpose, they are modern, and they are accessible from anywhere. And also we start to understand their service cost. So we understand the cost potentially of individual pieces of service being delivered to individual members of the public or residents, providing us with far greater data. That data is massively important. By being able to flow this all through an automated way or a better way in terms of integration, we start to get much greater data in the data warehouse. That enables us to provide descriptive analytics. And by descriptive analytics, I simply mean that provides us to be able to, that puts us in a position to be able to provide real-time dashboards of data that describes what is happening now. And because they're real-time dashboards and they are automated, it reduces the time in data provisioning and manipulation of that data outside by staff. In fact, it means that they can get on with the delivery of service rather than necessarily trying to understand what is happening all the time. Finally, if we then bring external data sources into that, we can start moving towards predictive analytics. In other words, starting to understand what might happen. That, linked with our what is happening, provides us with an evidence base that is absolutely vital to enabling us to provide better designed and commissioned services and products, which are evidence-based and potentially demand predicted. Products and services that meet residents' needs. Products and services that provide better outcomes for residents. And with that, I will hand over back to Councillor Parker for comments.
Super job. Thank you very much indeed, Matt, for that. And as you know, as we said at the outset, it can be quite a heavy topic, and it can at first glance be or appear to be a bit of a dry subject, but the architecture that sits behind is absolutely crucial to delivering what we want to deliver in the future for our customers, and that's our constituents, and that's everybody that uses the service. So happy to take any questions, Madam Chair. Obviously this item isn't for voting on particularly, so happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. That was a really interesting presentation. Councillor Maybury, I think you have a question or comment.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to direct this to our officer, Matthew Harding. Considering that my children and perhaps even my grandchildren think that Granny is a technophobe, I actually understood that, so well done. My comment to you is, and it's raised its ugly head again for me this week, is I hope that when this is all being designed and you are collating data and using it in a better form, my words, not yours, that you will actually take note of deceased residents. This has been a theme of mine for a while, that the message doesn't always get down to the people that it should, that someone is deceased, that they are receiving information for a variety of reasons, including this week. I think it was something to do with a parish councillor. So I hope that that is taken on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. Where we have access to that data, and ready access to that data, then we should be able to make sure it is integrated. Please be aware, though, that in some instances we don't collate that data. We would have to get it from a third party, and there are lags in terms of timescale of that data. So there will still be, at times, difficulties in making sure that we are aware from a timeliness perspective.
Madam Chairman, may I come back on that one, please?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. This has been an issue, and our Chief Executive is very aware, and I have written to him on numerous occasions, and there are hopefully stricter sort of policies for this. However, it does still seem as though sometimes these subjects are put forward to the council, and it's not always accepted. And I'm hoping that with your predictive data that you're talking about, that it can be that you have a notice that somebody is deceased. Okay. So there's no point in sending them anything.
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. We'll now move on to the next question from Councillor Jameson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure who this goes to, but in terms of the, I know this is more the strategy than the IT, as Councillor Parker mentioned, but in terms of IT, do we know the carbon footprint of the hardware and architecture that is used to support these services in terms of storage and servers and other hardware? I mean, and are we doing anything to improve the efficiency of this kit? Thank you.
I'm happy to defer that question, Councillor Jameson, over to Matt, if we may. Thank you.
The short answer, Councillor Jameson, is no, we don't yet. But we are in the process, alongside our biodiversity action plan and our green plan and agenda, to start understanding that better. We do have a lot of services that are outsourced, so to all intents and purposes we have cloud-based services externally. I am aware that some of the big vendors, and one of those particularly that we use a lot, in fact we're using their technology right now to hold this meeting, Microsoft, are currently trialling an online tool set that will enable us to understand exactly how much CO2 we are creating as a result of these tool sets. The one thing I would say, however, is that we are creating probably far less by being able to do this remotely than we would all be if we were driving to and from the council office.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Firstly, I will take issue, Councillor Parker. This is not a dry subject. It used to be my bread and butter. It's actually very interesting, and I think this strategy document is excellent. The conceptual architecture that Matt outlined makes a lot of sense. It's easy to understand, and it's the right direction that all organisations, public or private sector, should be following. I'm particularly pleased about the focus on data and making sure that that is right and shared, and that it becomes more than data, that it's information, and particularly so that we can use it properly to get good analytics and dashboards for all of our service areas, and I think that's great. Just one further comment on Councillor Jameson's question about the carbon footprint. One of the benefits, of course, of cloud computing and sharing resources like that is you do not have to rely on your own physical infrastructure. You share the infrastructure with other users. The focus is on virtualization. You have virtual servers which you spin up as and when you require them to meet the demand. The storage is much more efficiently shared. So yeah, we do need to keep a focus on the carbon footprint, and the Microsoft and other vendors in terms of their facilities they're going to bring into play to allow that to be monitored will be very helpful. But the strategy is one that does help with the carbon footprint greatly. So I'm very pleased with this, and I think it's an excellent way forward. So that's fine with me. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Busby.
Sorry about that. On the other hand, we've been talking about getting our data right for, I don't know, 12 years, I think. Haven't we, Lee? And so has just about every government department. And just about every government department has screwed up on this. What confidence can we have that we are going to be getting it correct?
I'll answer that one, Councillor Busby, and I think the very fact that we, for example, we're sitting here doing this now virtually as we are, means that certainly Babergh Mid Suffolk is very serious about its ICT. I understand that we were one of the first councils actually to be doing public meetings, etc. But around that specific point around data, I suppose the point is, this is the whole point of this presentation to you this evening. We now have a strategy, and that was the key item that was missing previously. Matt will be able to explain far more than I will that hitherto it's always been a sort of a mashing together of all sorts of strains of IT from all manner of sources. We now have a strategy that we can follow and bring it all under one roof. That strategy, of course, it never finishes. It continues. I think that's a really important point as well. Matt, can I bring you in on that just to explain really briefly, or to expand a bit further on that?
Yes, certainly. And I'll go back to something that Councillor Ward mentioned, actually, which is around cloud-based services and the fact that, to all intents and purposes, the power that we can now throw quite easily at data that we weren't able to before, because we were limited by our own data centers, by smaller processors, by a whole load of other things that basically made it quite difficult and quite a very time-consuming job to mash up that data, to mix that data together, is now something that can be done much quicker, much more efficiently at the press of a button. So to all intents and purposes, whilst the confidence is there that we can start to surface that data, we can start to join that data up quicker, we can also start, therefore, to understand where we need to improve it quicker. So really, the confidence is there that we're on the right journey now, I think, is the way to describe it. And it is, I mean, 12 years ago, business intelligence toolsets, the toolsets that we will be using to surface this data were very much in their infancy. They weren't necessarily mature toolsets, and they certainly weren't toolsets that were in the fingers of at the hands of everybody to be able to use. And I think that's made a significant shift in terms of the confidence of being able to make things better in terms of data.
Okay, thank you. I certainly have more confidence this time than we did when we spent £1 million with a Canadian set of consultants. But as we're only 2 minutes away from Clive's cottage pie, I won't say any more.
Thank you. Councillor McCraw.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Matthew for putting forward a difficult job. Translating technological architecture into human speak is never easy, and in fact I don't think it's actually fully achievable, but the systems and the care in creating those is something I do understand as a misspent life in gaming, simulations, war games, whatever. I've even designed a few, and the point of this is care, because it's the care in creation, it's the key. The human element here is the purpose, not the technological. All the successful advances in IT, in the use of, in the internet age, of apps, of smartphones, the keys have always been, the ones that have been successful have always been those that are intuitive. People understand exactly what to do because the design has been done in such a way as to make it obvious and easy. And I appreciate there's been criticism in the past of IT systems. I have noted over the years that the intuitiveness of gov.uk has improved out of all recognition. The difficulty in obtaining a license renewal or anything online used to be very difficult. It's not difficult now at all. Literally, you press a button, you enter a number, and it goes through. we have to be looking for, we're looking for an instinct to apply for making it as easy as possible for people. We're designing this for ease, and that's the only comment I'd make, is that we should be looking, if anything, for intuitive understanding without needing too much explanation. It's a very interesting piece of work. Thank you. And I also like the fact that Babergh and Mid Suffolk will not be wholly reliant on the provision of service from SCC, that we actually have a strategy and a direction in which to go, where we are not just subservient clients. We actually have an idea of what it is we want. And I hope there'll also be some economies involved in that.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. Have you got anything you'd like to reply with regard to that, Councillor Parker?
Well, just on that specific point, I think Councillor McCraw has absolutely hit the nail on the head with all of that, and that it's a really, really good understanding of exactly what the strategy is all about. And I just reiterate again that ultimately this is about customer outcomes. This is about providing the very best services for our constituents to be able to access us at whatever time they choose to access us. So appreciate the comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments that any members would like to make? So if there are no further comments, is there any further summing up that you'd wish to do, or
No,
have you?
Chair. No, thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much as well to Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. So that report was for comment only. Now we'll move on to the last item on our agenda, item 11, councillor appointments. Are there any changes to placings? Councillor Ward.
Not this time, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. So if there's nothing further, I'll now look to close the meeting. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, 19th of January, 2021, can you believe? So if there's nothing else, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas. I think it might be a slightly different one from normal. I hope you all stay healthy and all your families and friends stay healthy, and as many of our residents as possible stay healthy. And I wish you all a very happy Christmas and a good new year. And I look forward to seeing you all in January. Thank you.